Hi guys, it's Jilly Tamar and welcome to July's vlog. I think it's the 2nd or the 3rd of July, I think. And I've been up in Manchester about 5 or 6 days now. And while I'm here, I've been tending the garden because I grow vegetables here, which have all been harvested. So I've shown you this little nook, this corner, since January, and you can see that it's changed. I now have my herbs here, hyssop, which I will harvest and dry, mint, and I think this one might be thyme, and that one might be oregano, one or the other. They're both very similar. And then the lupins that have now flowered, we've harvested the seeds and they're now will die back for next year. And then just what's left over from planting. My greenhouse is on its side because it's very windy and it's been falling down. So my peas and broad beans I've harvested and they're all packed up and now in the freezer. So I have here a pepper that's growing, some tomatoes. They were in the greenhouse, but the greenhouse kept falling over. And then here I've got some haricot beans. In these little pots here, I've got some broad beans and peas. And here I've got salad greens that are growing. So that's a vegetable plot. My mum bought some wildflower seeds and has sowed them here. And they're really pretty. They're coming up lovely. Cornflowers. I'm not sure what these yellow ones are, but we've got wildflowers there. And we've got an abundance around here. So these are the wildflowers. That fern's been there for donkey's years. So moving on to the patio, I have changed things about a bit and I have repotted things, cut things back and repotted a calendula there, and there's a geranium here which I bought from the garden centre, a rose there that's in bloom, beautiful white rose, and then a climbing rose here that I got the other day, which is really pretty, smells gorgeous. And then here I have another rose which had beautiful flowers and smell amazing. And then here I have some snapdragons, and I'm kind of looking forward to seeing the seed heads on them because apparently they look like skulls. We have a beautiful fuchsia and a petunia. Here I've got sweet peas that are starting to bud, two separate varieties in two separate pots. And then here are more of those wildflowers that my mum's had. And we've had some gorgeous ones. We've had these yellow flowers and we've had an abundance of poppies. We've still got some poppies in bud. Lavender, that's not wild. So that's one side of the patio. And then turning round, I won't focus on the bin store. Then over here we've got some more where I've just chopped and changed and brought things around from the back. So we've got quite a few. Let's see, that's blown over. That's my jasmine. Now I usually have that inside, but because it's summer you can have them outside. So this is a patio area which is looking really, really pretty. I'm really pleased with it. And that's this side with the roses and wildflowers, etc. So that's July's garden, guys. Hi guys, so I thought I'd show you my altar. I haven't really done anything with my altar this particular Sabbath, the solstice, because as you all know I was in Glastonbury, but I just thought I would show you how I've got it. I have on here some elemental stones to represent the elements which I made myself. And my altar is pretty much the same, as is my Goddess of Avalon altar. That's pretty much the same. And then in terms of projects, I have been making some flower essence aura sprays, which I have up here in these bottles. These bottles had Glastonbury spring water in, and I've made those essences from that Glastonbury spring water. I have the Rose Ray flower essence and the Blue Lotus flower essence, which I have created. And here is my ancestor altar, pretty much the same. And in terms of projects, I've started knitting again. So I've knitted this fairy pouch, well, pixie pouch as I call them. I do sell all these in Glastonbury. So I've knitted a pixie purse, and I knitted this with scraps of yarn or wool, all acrylic, so this would be suitable for vegans. I knitted this with all scraps of chunky yarns I had, and then just sewn a goddess cut out felt emblem on it. And then over here I've made a child's pixie hat. So I'm going to make several of these because I'm hoping to run have a craft fair, or have a stall at a craft fair rather, when I'm back in Glastonbury, probably in the autumn or winter, and sell some of these items and some of my flower essence aura sprays. So that's what I'm up to on the crafting front, guys, for July. Hi, I'm just by my local town, which is not a couple of miles away from where my mother lives, as I'm still up in Cheshire, Greater Manchester, staying with my mum for the summer. And the town is in that direction over there. This is a park that you've probably seen in my vlogs that I walk my dog in. And beside the park is this beautiful canal. And it's really nice. It's like a bit of Wild Haven in a town. The town I'm in is probably a little bit smaller than Glastonbury, but has shops like Boots, Superdrug, Costa, and Asda, that sort of thing. And I've just been along the canal with my partner in crime, Nero, my Staffordshire Bull Terrier. And we're just about to walk back, and this is the canal. It must be an absolute pain in the bum to negotiate these locks if you're living in a barge or you're travelling in a barge, a canal boat. I wouldn't like to do that. No, I prefer being on land, and I prefer having my caravan home, or at least it's my part-time home, than living in a boat. This bit is private. I think it's something to do with a canal. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it's where surplus water flows, but it is abundant with nettles, and I see meadowsweet there. So it is nice. Look at these nettles. Great time now to start harvesting. If you can hear a rustling, it's a bag, and I've picked up some wool. You just have a peek inside. Some wool. I'm going to, because I'm doing some knitting, because I want to be selling things at the Frost Fair in Glastonbury, hopefully. So there's some meadowsweet. And nettles. Nettles, I think, are better harvested when they're young, to be honest. But meadowsweet, when you get loads and loads of it, it has a really nice almondy smell. When my husband was alive and I lived in Cumbria, well, actually I lived in Cumbria until 12 months ago, there used to be loads of meadowsweet up there in the fields, and it smelled amazing when you used to walk through the fields. So we've got brambles here. These are going to be ready for picking in a few weeks. Blackberries in the making there. We've got some more meadow sweet there by the edge of the canal. But it's just such a nice walk. The meadow sweet to me has a really gentle energy. A really gentle energy. And then those pink flowers are rose bay willow herb. And again, I think it's a wildflower, it's not a weed. And I think you can work with that magically, but it's not really a plant I have many dealings with. And then over here is yarrow, and it's growing out of the wall. So it's looking like it's a bit wilted. But it's not going to get water there, is it? But this is yarrow, or Achilles. I think it's called Achilles, its Latin name. Yarrow is a plant I do work with. We've got some yarrow here as well. You can tell the yarrow by its, I'll just show you its leaves, by its fern. See, this plant's rather wilted, but by its fern-like leaves. And yarrow is a really good plant to use in healing. And I'm not going to harvest it because I can only see that one and that one. And there will be more of it, but I can't see any around here. So I'm going to leave that. But little blackberries in the making. Some flowers. Oh yes, there's some yarrow here. I don't know why the yarrow grows out of the wall here. I can't see any on the grass verges at all. It's a first. I've got to be honest with you and say I have never seen yarrow growing out of a wall before, but it's the first time for everything, isn't there? So, but I'm not harvesting it. Again, I would prefer to see a lot more yarrow around. I'm not going to harvest if I only see 3 yarrow plants. You've got to leave some back for the wild. And over here we have another wildflower. Like a giant yellow-eyed daisy. So it's just such a nice walk along here. And I thought that I would share my walk with you. Further up the canal, we've got some wild, it's either feverfew growing or I can't think of the other name, or chamomile. But again, it's all right on the verge of the canal. So again, I'm not going to harvest it because there's only one. So yes, beautiful thistles. I do enjoy coming for walking and seeing the lovely wildflowers that are around. And I've got to say, in a few weeks we're going to be hitting autumn, and I love autumn and I love spring. I like summer, but I find it can get too hot, to be honest with you. But I'd say that now things are starting to ripen, ready for picking. So I hope you enjoyed this little walk with my dog. And I'm going to be back again shortly, soon, with a book review and a deck review. So I shall see you on the other side, guys. Okay, so these are the following items I'm going to review for July. I haven't done a lot of reading for June because I've been quite busy filling orders with my Etsy shop. So I'm going to start with this book and then come to the decks later. This book is written by someone who is quite expert on the Mary Magdalene issue. When I mean issue, I mean the whole untold story of Mary Magdalene, and this book I got from World of Books, so I got it second hand. It's very, very interesting. It gives it has a CD, but I don't have a CD player, but it gives her it's Margaret Starbird's research into Mary Magdalene, and it brings up the legends of Mary Magdalene and if there's any truth with them. And she looks into biblical texts as well to decipher the meaning between the lines, because a lot of the biblical texts that were translated, meanings have been lost in translation. So this talks about Mary Magdalene, her mission, the bride and then widow of Christ. It's a really easy book to read. She wrote another book called The Woman with the Alabaster Jar. I haven't read that, but if you haven't read that one, which I hadn't, I think this one's as good to go as well. It's a really easy book to read. I'm enjoying it. It's full of different illustrations, and to give you an idea of the of what's in it, there's your chapters here, and it's well researched, and I'm very drawn to Mary Magdalene. I don't class myself as a Christian. I do class myself as a folk witch in that I use traditional folk magic spells. And the witches of Pendle in Lancashire were very much folk practitioners. And having read about them, they kind of used biblical stuff as well in their folk practical stuff. But Mary Magdalene, to me, she's an icon of the divine feminine. I have a very healing vibe with her. And if you're drawn to Mary Magdalene, I would recommend this book. It's a really interesting book and it's very easy to read. It's not complicated. And I'm enjoying learning more about this mysterious woman who for years was denigrated by the church. So if you're interested in the Magdalene, then you can't go wrong with this author, because she is an expert, or quite the expert, in Mary Magdalene. So next I'm going to move on to the cards. Okay, so the first deck is the Witchfolk Tarot. Now, I ordered this months and months ago, and I ordered it, and 3 months later it hadn't arrived, and I thought, hang on, I've paid for this deck, it hasn't come. So I contacted the seller and told them that I hadn't received the deck, and they said they'd resend it, which they did. But when they resent it, they didn't send me one deck, they sent me two. Now, whether that was in error or it was because I'd waited so long and my parcel had been mislaid, I don't know. So I ended up with two of these decks. So of course, one deck is down in Glastonbury and the other deck is here. It does come with a book, a little booklet, and I never read the booklet with tarot cards. I just don't. So these are the backs. The card stock is on the thin side, but every card has folk witch on the top. I don't know if that's deliberate by the creator or not, but I do like these because they're a very, very folk witchy deck, and I think they would be great to use in magic or spell working, because look at these would make great sigils. I mean, 10 of Cups there, and I'm just going to go through a few of them. Death, I like that death card. They really have got a folk vibe to them. Now, if you remember the film Midsummer, made by Ari Aster, if he made a sequel or an equivalent film called Midwinter, I'd swear that this deck would really be suited in a film. If he made a film called Midwinter, the art, and particularly the art, it has a very Eastern European vibe, but a very deep forest vibe with it as well. It's almost like to me it has a forest vibe, like flight. I mean, these would make excellent, really excellent. You could charge with these. The colours are beautiful, but it's a limited colour palette, which I'm quite happy with. And what I like about them is they're simple, but they're not boring. They're modern, but traditional at the same time. And I like the idea that you could use these not just for doing readings with, but you could charge your items with them, because there's a sigil resonance about these cards. You could use, I mean, you can use tarot cards and do tarot spells. This would be a perfect deck for doing tarot spells with, because it has a lot of magical imagery, but also a lot of folk imagery here as well. I'm not going to go through all the cards. I'm just going to go through some of them for you. But I do like this deck. It took, by the time the replacements came, I'd waited 5.5 months, so nearly 6 months from ordering and paying, and then to them coming. And like I say, I got 2 decks. So I thought, right, well, I'll keep one in my caravan home in Glastonbury. So I've got one down there and the other one's up here. But they're really nice. I like the colours. The colours are really nice. They're quite vibrant. But as I said, it is a limited colour palette. But don't let that put you off. Sometimes I think cards can be too colourful. And I don't mind this limited colour palette. I mean, that one, excellent for magical workings. Not all of them have this sort of sigil vibe to them. Some of them do. I mean, some of these are very astrological as well. They're just a brilliant card. Although the card stock is very, I'd say, on the flimsy side. But that really doesn't bother me, to be honest with you. So that is the Folk Witch Tarot. And then the next deck I'm going to show you is another independent deck, but it's an oracle deck. I do have the Folk Witch Tarot deck on my ancestor altar here. And I just want to read you what's on the back of the cards before I move on to the next deck. The one astray she was at forest, alone in the spruce, could not soar, earth swallowed. Her water washed her away in the fire rose, and she learned how to fly. The nature, you, nature is me. So that's what it says on the back of that deck. And as I say, that sits on my ancestor altar. Okay, this is my next deck, and this also sits on my ancestor altar over there. And this is the Witchwood Oracle. Now, I think Witchwood Oracle is the name of the company that produce these independent oracle cards. They do have an Etsy shop, and I must say their oracle decks are very reasonably priced. And the card stock is nice. They're small cards, ideal for travel, so they are small but not too small. And if you want something quirky and a little bit different, do check out this company. They have a website and, as I said, an Etsy shop, and they are based in the UK. So this is known as the Unnamed deck, and these are the backs. And I'm just going to go through a few of these. I use these in conjunction with the Folk Witch Tarot when I'm wanting to do commune work with my ancestors, which I usually do on or around the full moon. But now we're heading into the dark half of the year. We've passed the solstice. In the lighter half of the year, I usually sort of do ancestor work on a full moon, but now we're moving into the darker half. I'm going to be doing the opposite. So instead of it being on a full moon, I'll be doing it on a dark moon. So this is when these cards will come into play, and it's just a way to commune with the ancestors. So the lovely cards, they're simple, And they do have I got these because of this ancestral vibe. It has a necromancy vibe, a mortuary vibe with these cards. And I think I paid under £10 for them. I can't remember. I did get them on Etsy because, as I said, they have an Etsy shop. But I do like them. Some of them are a bit quirky and some of them are a bit more serious. But if you're looking for a deck that's reasonably priced, a little bit unusual, I mean, look at that clover with the skull, then you can't go wrong with Witchwood Oracle because they are reasonably priced. They have sales on as well. And I think I've got 3 of their decks. And one of them is down in Glastonbury, and then I've got the other 2 up here. But they are nice cards, nice card stock, and I think they are really, really good value for money. So this is the unnamed deck, and as I say, I use this for ancestor work. I don't use this deck for readings. I do have a deck that I use to do ancestor work with clients, and that's the Mildred Payne Oracle deck from the creator of Deviant Moon. But this deck is for my own and soul use. I like to use this with my own communication with the ancestors. And it's just really, it's just different. That's what I like about it. It's different. And it was inexpensive. So that is this deck. And if you're interested in looking at their decks, by the way, I am in no way promoting or being paid to promote this company. I'm just telling you where to get this deck from, because you might see the deck and you might like it and you might wonder where it's from. So I'm just sharing that with you. I'm not promoting this company and I'm not being paid to do so. So I'm just putting that out there. So that is my 2 decks for the month. And I will check in with you later, guys. Okay, seeing I'm staying at my mum's and I'm here kind of mainly between here and Glastonbury, I thought I would show you my room, which is my mum's spare room, but she's kindly allowed me to adapt for myself, seeing I spend quite a bit of time here with her. And so I've been able to decorate this room to my taste. It was previously the spare room, and keep some of my things here because, to be fair, I am here with my mum as well when I'm not in Glastonbury to look after her. So you will have seen snippets of this room in other videos. So this is my final entry for July's vlog, and then I will see you in August. So this is my, what I call my healing goddess altar. Now, as I said, I do practice folk magic, but I work with a goddess because I work in the Goddess Temple in Glastonbury as a Melissa when I'm there, but I also incorporate the goddess and the divine feminine into healing. So that's my altar. That's a statue of Anubis, which is there because the nose has come off and it needs repaired, and that's a job waiting to be done. But this is my goddess altar. I have a kind of a miniature tree there that my late husband bought me a few years ago, and then I've got some kind of hanging things up there as well. Then you've seen this before. This is just my altar there, which I've already shown you, and then here my bed, wardrobe with my clothes in. Here, most of them are down in Glastonbury, but like I say, I've got 2 lots of everything. Then here I've got, those are my magical sort of flower water essences I've made, and then at the back I've got my herbs. I don't have a lot, but I have some, and then essential oils at the back, and then ingredients. And in there I have my, I'm qualified to do hoppy ear candling, so I keep everything to do with hoppy ear candling in that little box bag, and then when I've got a client I can take the lot with me. Then in this is my ancestor altar, which you see quite frequently. My late husband, my late great aunt, and it was her sister who read palms, tea leaves, crystal balls. That's a cat I had years ago called Monty, and he was given to me by the professor at the university I was at, because he was moving into halls of residence and couldn't take his cat. That's my husband and myself when we were married. My late father and my mother, you know, as you know, my mother's still with us. My grandma and granddad, that's my dad's mum and dad, when they were young, which was taken in the 20s. And then that's a picture of them when they were old. And I loved my gran and granddad. And the rosary bead is there because they were Roman Catholic. My father was Catholic and they were Catholic. And they used to go to church every Sunday. So that's why the rosary bead is there. The rosary beads I got in Dublin. And then I've got an ancestor request box. And then moving round here, this wardrobe here is all full of coats. But this is all in here is my healing stuff, boxes of crystals there, healing mats, wands, box of crystals there. All this is stuff I use in healing. And then this is stuff I'm knitting up to sell. And then coming round here, chest of drawers with bedding in, and then just bits and pieces there. These are the pictures I have on my wall. I love that quote there. We incarnate through 10,000 lives, but few are those who remember that in the beginning and in the end we are everything and we are nothing. I absolutely love that quote. That was a picture my sister bought me, God, about 30 years ago. And this one I got from Glastonbury about 2 years ago. This is one I painted. And I ordered that one. It's Archangel Gabriel, I believe. That is one I got from a craft fair. Iconic Glastonbury tour. Glastonbury. Again, Glastonbury. That's a family photo of me, my late husband and my dog, Nero. One of Linda Ravencroft's pieces. I've got that one. That one, and then I like that little one that I got in Alnwick in Northumberland. And then I've got one down there. I'll just pull it out. That's one I painted. I did that myself. I painted it, one solstice about, quite a few years ago now. But I painted it on it was a summer solstice I painted it. That one I was gifted. And that one my mum gifted me because I do like that. And then I'm a bit of a horror fan, so I've got my horror photos, and a mirror I got from a second-hand shop, my Glastonbury Abbey calendar. I made that, and then coming round here I have the more pagan-y pictures on this side. And then this is where I keep my laptop, the book I'm reading, which I've discussed, and the bed here. So I just thought I would share with you my room. And then this is my book stack. Some are reference books, like the knitting books are reference books, but these are all the books on my book stack which I am waiting to read, apart from the ones to do with knitting. So kind of from what's in the cards for you upwards. So yes, that's my motley collection of stuff I have here. As I say, I don't live in the apartment in Cumbria anymore. I have tenants in, and when those tenants move out, I will be selling that property and hopefully either buying a bigger caravan to live in permanently in Glastonbury, or I may even buy a property down there. I'm not sure yet. I don't really want to buy a property though, because it's just getting harder and harder. Affordability, cost of living crisis, etc., etc. So I just thought, I'd seen you'd had a tour of my caravan home in Glastonbury. I thought I would show you my space here. I mean, of the two, I prefer my caravan, but my mum's 92 this year and she does need some support. So, and she doesn't want to go in a home. She just, that's her biggest fear, going in a care home. And it's a fear that most elderly have. And I've worked with the elderly. I worked prior to my husband's death, and it's a fear a lot of them have. And I want to respect that. I try and look at it from her perspective. Being in a care home isn't ideal. So if I can look after her, and I can, I will do. And my mum's pretty independent for a 91 to 2-year-old. She can cook, she can wash herself, dress herself, she makes her own bed, but she has trouble with lifting things. Her mobility's not great. So, you know, I encourage that. So that's a tour of my space, and I shall see you in August. Blessed be everybody.